Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever time it is around the world, wherever you are watching this video. Pleased to be making this right now. This is the first video I'm going to make on how to get your first client. I'm going to be recording another video after this on what to do after your first client. But right now, this is for, anybody who is looking to get their first client. Obviously, if you know me, you know I make content for financial advisors. But this video actually really is applicable to anyone running a service-based business at all. If you don't know who I am, my name is John. I am a co-founder at Nessie Renault. We do lead generation for financial advisors, and we've been doing that for a few years now in the lead gen space. So just to show you a little bit of our results and kind of give you a little bit of proof that we're actually doing what we're saying, so that you guys know that before watching this video. I've actually gone through these strategies, implemented them myself to get my first client, and use those clients to build momentum and continue pushing my business from there. So as you can see, here is our profits for 7 days, just over Stripe for the first week of June. We have some lead gen results that I wanted to show you guys as well through Facebook here. This is a campaign that we had done for an advisor back from April through May, generating leads for under $4.50. And then also as well, a campaign that we had put live over July, and over a 9-day period, we had generated the total amount of leads that this guy had wanted and stopped the campaign after $379 at $1.39 per lead. So we've been in lead gen a while. We've been generating pretty phenomenal results, but obviously before you get on to being able to do lead gen and being able to afford that in the first place, you need a client to be able to bankroll that. So you need to kind of start out with nothing and build it into something so you can start doing lead gen. And in this video, I'm going to cover exactly how to get your first client so you can start building and doing exactly what I just showed you. All right, so getting your first client. Now, there's a few different ways that you can go about getting your first client, right? And we had implemented all of these. I'm sure there's other ways as well. I'm just letting you guys know what worked for us when we were starting our journey in the agency space, and more specifically in the lead generation space. But these strategies work for pretty much, like I said, any service-based business to be able to go out there and get the job done. So the first method that you can use is cold outreaching. Now, there's a few different types of things you can do. Cold emailing, cold DMs, and cold calling are the cold outreaching that we did, that we found successful. So with cold emailing, essentially what you're doing is you're just getting an email list of your target market. For us, it's financial advisors. We don't really do a whole lot of cold emailing anymore. Do a little bit every now and then, but for the most part, we're not really focused on that. But when we started, that's what we were doing very, very heavily. You can use tools like hunter.io to actually find and scrape emails from the internet, build up your email list. You can also also buy email lists from places like Fiverr. Those tend to be sometimes lower quality, so you have to be kind of careful who you're buying from, but that's a great way of doing it as well. You can use sites like Instantly or Lemlist to actually automate your cold email campaigns. So basically, I know with Lemlist, you just basically plug and play everything. You drop a CSV of all of the prospects that you want to actually cold email to, and Lemlist will make sure it gets sent out like one email every 5 minutes or something like that, so that you're not just sending out an email every 2 seconds and getting flagged and put to spam. So there's a bunch of tools like that. If you're really going hard on the cold email side, I would recommend checking out Lemlist, Instantly, and hunter.io. So a lot of these strategies, guys, they're not anything new or exciting or whatever, but I'm just detailing kind of our experience of what we did and trying to give you guys just a condensed version of all the different things you can do to get your first client, right? So like I said, cold emailing is a great way to start. Cold DMing is also great. Doing this through Facebook, especially, even Instagram or LinkedIn as well, works quite great. So typically with cold DMs as compared to cold emails, you can use the exact same copy, but cold DMs tend to have a higher conversion rate. So for example, with cold email, you might only get a 1 to 3% response rate. Cold DMs, you might get a 5 to 6% response rate, depending on, a couple different factors. But the problem with cold DMing is I find it's harder to automate, so it takes more time. So you have to do it manually, unless you want to be paying kind of an arm and a leg for different software to automate things. It can really become a little bit time consuming, but the conversion rate and the results that you'll get do tend to be a little better than doing cold emailing. So another thing you can do as well is cold calling. Now, this one just takes sheer brute force. It can be brutally effective, but it can also be brutally tough. So I've talked about cold calling a little bit in the video I made on dialers and for financial advisors using dialers. So if you haven't checked that video out yet, go ahead and watch that. But when it comes to cold calling, really the biggest thing is just being able to brute force your way through it. You have to take a lot of rejection. You have to take a lot of no's. But if you're able to get through that mentally and you're able to build that skill of just talking to random strangers on the phone and converting them into clients, you'll be able to sell anything and do anything you want with your business. So as tough of a skill as it is, I highly recommend starting out, at least trying a little bit of cold calling. It was something that we did, something that really built me as an entrepreneur and as a business person, and something that also built my business partner and co-founder in this venture as well. So I don't hate cold calling. It's very, very tough. It's definitely a grind, but those who can power through and get a lot of cold calls done and get really effective at it can start getting their first, not just first client, but first 5 or 6 very, very quickly if they're able to do it right. At least that's been my experience with it. So that kind of is covering the cold outreach side of things and what you can do there. So I'm not going to go, 10 minutes into depth on each specific method in this video. I'm just kind of going to give a bit of a summary on my experience with each method that we used and kind of what we were doing there. So if you feel, interested in kind of checking one out more, like you think, oh, cold DM sounds interesting, or, oh, I really want to learn cold calling. How do I go about it? Then check out some other videos on YouTube or stuff like that as well. And I'll probably actually make a couple videos on cold DMs or maybe even cold emailing to start with. If you guys are interested in that, drop a comment below. But I just want to give you guys a summary so you can go and kind of do a little bit more of your own research and just come to a decision on what you think is right for you to get your first client, what you think you're comfortable with, what you think is going to be the most effective, the timeline that you have in order to get your first client. So if you need a client really quickly, then, maybe take the cold calling approach, even though it's a little bit more tough. If you don't really care and you just want to be comfortable, well, cold DMs and cold emailing, they might take a bit longer, but it's a great place to start. So another thing you can do other than cold outreach is go door to door or do events, right? So door to door, I will admit that's not one that we've done, but we know people who've had quite a lot of success with it. So door to door is similar to cold calling, except the highs are higher and the lows are lower, right? So you're going to have to face more rejection, especially when you're knocking on people's doors. You're going to get that rejection right to your face. So it's not exactly the easiest thing in the world, but you're probably going to get a higher conversion rate even than with cold calling because of that face-to-face interaction. People are really going to appreciate and respect your work ethic when they understand what you're doing and how you're building your business, and it's going to build a lot of trust. So again, you're going to have to handle a lot of rejection, and that's why I said the lows are really low when it comes to door to door. It is hard to get people kind of slamming the door in your face and rejecting you. But for the 2 or 3 doors that you knock on that you actually get people who are interested in your product or service that you're able to talk to, it becomes extremely, extremely great to have those connections because it's something very, very distinct that they're going to remember you for. I mean, just think of the last time you had somebody knock on your door with a product or service, right? Like, probably never, but if you have had somebody recently, you'll remember them, right? Because it's not very often that happens. So at least becomes memorable. And even if you just go to their door and they don't pick up right away, you're going to stick in their mind and they are going to remember you showing up to the door later on when they actually need your service. So door-to-door is extremely, extremely effective. Like I said, the highs are very high, and people are really going to respect you for it. But there's also going to be a lot of rejection that you're going to have to handle on the other side of it as well. So you need to be prepared for that. But if not, and if you don't want to do door-to-door, but you'd like to kind of get out in your community and do whatever, you can do events, right? So this is not, I'm trying to get you guys to your first client without needing to pay any money at all. That's the whole point of this video, is being able to do it with $0. But if you do have the ability to attend paid events, it does put you in an advantage, right? Attending paid events is paying to put yourself in a room of like-minded people who are willing to pay for things. Like if you paid to be in the event, you know that these people are willing to pay for things that they believe in because they're paying for a network already, right? So if there are paid events in your area that you think would be beneficial for you to attend, and you do have a little bit of money lying around, and it could be something as simple as just like a paid pancake breakfast, right, in your community for, $20. Doesn't necessarily need to be like a big, weekend long VIP pass to some networking event, right? It can be something very simple and very, very cost effective. But you don't even need to do paid events, even though it does put you at a little bit of an advantage. There's plenty of local events like trade shows you can do, or even just I've heard guys who are doing presentations at their churches, right? So don't come necessarily I'm not saying come to church with the intention to, sell everyone in the church on whatever your product or service is. I'm just saying, don't be afraid to ask if you can do a presentation on your service. If you're a financial advisor, don't be afraid to ask people who are, attending a trade show or a church or whatever the other event is, about their business, because you'd be surprised by the answers you get sometimes, right? So like I said, I know a guy who, was doing financial advising, great guy, let's just call him Bob. And Bob was going out to, his church. He had asked his pastor if he was able to do a presentation after church. And that's how he ended up getting his start in financial advising and being able to kind of be the self-made entrepreneur that Bob is today. He's a great guy. And he just, asked, took a shot, and was surprised by the answer he got. So not a bad idea to try different events and stuff like that as well in your local community. The other one, and I'm sure you guys have heard this before, but it's very, very underrated, right? Family and friends. Like just stop and kind of think about it for a second. You've hopefully, right? And I say hopefully, I kind of put that in brackets there, emphasized it, already established rapport with your friends and family, and they should trust you, right? So half of the job when you're in a service-based business is selling yourself, not the actual services, right? So a lot of the time people will believe in the service, but they won't necessarily believe in you. So it's important that you have people who believe in you already. And if you have family members that are supportive and believe in you, I hope you do, or even friends that are supportive and believe in you, it might be awkward, but that's a great way to start and get a head start and move on to bigger things. Some people really don't like, contacting their family and friends and doing business with family and friends. They'd rather keep their business lives out of their family lives, and that's totally understandable. That's why we gave these other examples of what you can do as well. But if you're able to do that and leverage a connection that you have with a family member or a friend, it can be absolutely crucial. It's especially something that's very common in the financial advising space as well. So if you are a financial advisor and you want to start getting clients, you need to get a little bit of money through the door. And if you have a family or friend that you can actually do good work for, then why have them do work with anyone else? Get them and get them started and start doing financial advising or whatever the service that you're running is for them, right? So that's kind of the ways that you can go about getting your first client. We used a lot of these ourselves, especially on the cold outreach side. So obviously I would recommend doing cold outreach or seeing if you have a family or friend to start. The hardest part about this business, 100%, any service-based business, is getting that first client. Getting the first client is harder than getting the first 10 clients. It's hard. Getting the first $1,000 is so much harder than getting the first $10,000, right? So it's not just about as well. it's not just about being able to get the first client. It's also about being able to keep that momentum rolling after you get the first client to start getting, 2 clients, 3 clients, 5 clients, 6 clients, 10 clients, 15 clients, and keep that momentum rolling, right? So that's why I'm recording this video now, is to show you how to kind of push that boulder down the mountain. But this is just the tip of the iceberg. And from here, you should be aiming to carry that momentum forward after you get your first client to start getting more and more and more and really growing your business. So it might be a little bit difficult, but this is what we did with our first clients. We did not take any of the money that we got from them. We knew that lead generation is what worked best for us and what was growing the business of the client that we were doing in the first place back when we had our first lead generation client 2-3 years ago, whenever it was. So we started running our own lead generation ads on Meta, or specifically Facebook. And you can do this for very cheap. You can do this for as little as $500, right? Start generating leads on the platform and move on from the slog of all these other systems, right? So the money that we spent on generating leads for ourselves, even though we didn't necessarily have enough leads at the beginning to make this thing a full-time thing when we first started this business, the peace of mind that it gave and the time saved was 100% worth the money, and it did grow our business, right? So lead generation, in my opinion, is the absolute best tool that you can invest your money in once you have your first client. Even if you get your first client for a very small fee like $500, you can then take that $500, tangibly put it into something, and turn it around to generate yourself another client out of that process, and then another client out of that process, and then another, and it just keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger and more clients. And it's so easy to scale lead generation, especially online when you're doing it through Meta or TikTok, right? So we have an exclusive lead generation system that we've developed. It's a done for you, multi-dimensional lead generating process. So we go through that. We make the system completely anti-fragile, which is why we're generating on multiple platforms. So if one goes down, we know we're still getting leads on another platform. That's why it's multi-dimensional. And again, it's entirely done for you, so you don't have to worry about it. So if you already do have your first clients and you're looking to kind of expand beyond that, feel free to shoot a comment with any questions that you have about generating leads, or feel free to shoot a DM to me as well on Facebook, Instagram, whatever works best for you, and we'll get you set up and help you out with that. We also have included in the exclusive lead system a lead nurturing process to capture more lead conversion out of the leads that we're actually getting. So that's just simple things like email campaigns, text campaigns with calendar links attached to them, so that our guys are actually, getting on calls with the leads that they're getting through their Facebook ads. And then on top of it as well, we have appointment setters, so we can take you out of cold calling and cold outreach forever. So that way you have somebody actually calling the leads in your list, setting them on appointments with you, and making sure that no leads slip through the cracks. So if you already have your first client, or you simply would just like to know more about the system and what to do after you get your first client, this is a system that we have kind of set in place for that. So I hope that this video was helpful to those of you who are still kind of struggling to get your first client and need somewhere to go. And I hope it gave a sense of direction as well as to where you can go after you finally get that client, and how to make the most and really truly capitalize on the momentum that you get from that first client. So yeah, hope this made sense, and hope that you guys are having an awesome day. Peace.